What is up, everybody? It's your guy G for another player to be named later video. It's been a while, I know. Thanks for watching. First and foremost, before I really get into the video, it won't be a long one. I try keep the videos as short as possible. Man, shout out to Kyle Lowry, the greatest Raptor of all time. Had to pull out my Champions hat today. Just seeing that standing ovation that he got in Toronto last night was really amazing, and he definitely deserves all the flowers, all the ovations, all the praise from Raptors fans. He really will and is going down as the greatest Raptor of all time for now. No one did it better in Toronto. But yeah, let's get into it a little bit. I kind of took my time doing the next Raptors video because I wanted to see how things played out really, and up to the first 40 games of the year. And I really like what I'm seeing. They've really come a long way from last season. If you really watch my videos and kind of followed what I was saying from last year, I really believed in this team, the talent, how they'd all gel together, even without seeing Brandon Ingram play last year with them. I'm a guy who goes by the eye test, not by 2K stats, not by analytics, none of that. That's great for some of you, but for me, it's always been the eye test. That's how I learned about ball. But listen, all this trade talk right now, I know everyone is so quick to jump on Emmanuel quickly and his contract, and I just don't understand. Okay, I can see where people want to trade Emmanuel quickly, but make the trade for someone that makes sense. This team needs help in the middle. They don't need to bring in John Morant. They didn't need to bring in Anthony Davis. He's not the right help in the middle, and we saw that right away. The rumors started, the guy got hurt, and honestly, I'm not even making fun of the guy. Everyone calls him street clothes. It's warranted, but he's an NBA champion. He's a great talent. I think he needs to be studied a little bit more because he's a guy that was recruited as a guard when he went to Kentucky, and he just shot up in height. I believe from like 6'1" or 6'2" to 6'10", and people can't really put their finger on why the guy gets hurt, but I think maybe that might have something to do with it. His body just it's something with that guy, and he just can't stay healthy for a full season. It's kind of sad because he's so talented. But back to the Raptors, they don't need a guy like that. They definitely don't need John Morant. And one thing with Raptors fans, a lot of bandwagon fans, a lot of fair weather fans, they just love the big name. They always want a big name, no matter who it is, what his upside is that whatever it is, his downside. You do not want to mess with the chemistry of this team right now, okay? IQ is good vibes on his team. He's putting up almost 17 points a game, 4.5 rebounds, 6 assists. What does John Morant give you more than that? Maybe a couple of extra points, 1 extra assist, 4 less rebounds, and shoots 20% from 3. At least IQ got his 3-point shot going again. He's back well over 30%. If there's a trade to happen out there, the first person I said was Domantas Sabonis from Sacramento. But Sacramento, with their 8 wins, is acting too nice, like they don't want to take back contracts that the Raptors have. Fine, move on. A team I would actually look at is Utah. Utah's sitting there, granted 14 wins, but they're in last place in their division. They load manage their best player. Lauri Markkanen plays, then he doesn't play. He's a great player, but they have 5 centers on that team. Now, granted, Walker Kessler's out currently, but you have Yusuf Nurkic, Kyle Filipowski, even Kevin Love. Like, make a play for a couple of those guys. Whether it's Filipowski and Love, they can be had for cheap, man. You can probably not even have to give up IQ and get a Filipowski and a Love for Grady and Ochai maybe a couple of second round picks. Like, I'm not saying that we should just easily give up on Grady. His talent is there, obviously, but he hasn't really developed as much as we'd like, and maybe that's because Jacoby Walter's there. There's a glutton of guards that exist on the Raptors that have probably hindered his development and his confidence a little bit. If you had to give him up, you look at recently the play of Elijah Martin. We saw last year with AJ Lawson what he did, and he's showing basically that same kind of talent this year. So if we had to give up on a guy like Grady to get that help in the middle, like a Yusuf Nurkic or Kyle Filipowski or Kevin Love, all those guys shoot threes. They grab rebounds. Filipowski's playing 20 minutes in Utah. 20 minutes. Like I said, they have 5 centers and hardly any guard play. They need guards on that team. So Grady, Ochai, even if they had to give up one of AJ Lawson or Elijah Martin, throw him in the deal because you still have Jamison Battle in Toronto. We have too many guards. They have too many centers. If there's any team the Raptors should be looking at to make a trade to get centers and get help in the middle, it's the Utah Jazz. Because you bring in a couple of those guys, you get Yak ready for the playoffs. There's not as much pressure for him to get healthy fast and soon, but we've seen it with the Raptors this year. We've seen what happens when they play a team that has big men. They just can't do it. No matter what, they end up paying too much attention or not enough attention. They get out-rebounded on the offensive glass, give up too many second chance points, or aren't strong enough in the middle to keep guys out. And guys can get into the paint, kick it out for threes, and that's where the Raptors get hurt. You see it in every game against Boston. That's their MO. Get into the paint, kick it out to Peyton Pritchard, Sam Hauser, all those guys that shoot threes, Derek White. That's why they're always losing to Boston and teams that can really dump the three. It's those types of trades that the Raptors need. It's not going after the biggest name like a John Moran who's going to come in, ruin the chemistry of the team if he doesn't like how things play out. I get it. He has a previous relationship with Darko, and maybe there's something to be said there. Maybe Darko can keep him under control. But for me, that's not the play. You don't need a big name guard. You don't need, the upside. And everyone's talking about IQ's contract. Well, what's John Morant's contract? Well over $40 million for at least the next 3 years, and you don't know what you're getting. At least if a trade like what I'm saying with Utah, someone like that, first of all, you can keep IQ. He can continue to get better from a shooting guard position. So that's why if you end up giving up a Grady and Ochai, who's expendable, both guards, move IQ to the shooting guard position as your starter, and Jamal can start. Elijah Martin can back him up, and you have other options there. But the option and listening to the American media push this John Morant trade just because they want him out of Memphis. Let's dump him on the Raptors because the Raptors are always looking for a big name. They can never sign a big name. Stop listening to that stuff. Stop listening to that stuff and realize, because the real teams that are going to contend have big men down the middle, and they don't just have one. They have 2, 3 guys. You bring in 2 big guys from Utah, and suddenly you have Yak, 2 of those big guys, and CMB. That's looking good down the middle to go with what we have at the forward position and guard position. And that's what I really think the Raptors should do, because the position they're in, the way they're playing right now, you have RJ who's hurt, and the Raptors are still playing, decent ball. That stretch they had without him, it was kind of hard, but he came back and you saw what happened. Now he's out again. Hopefully he won't be out with this ankle injury for too long. BI came back last night. They still almost were able to pull it out with Philly, but Philly had that huge lead. But, let's be realistic. Let's understand what this team's all about. And it's not about bringing in a big name guard who's going to come in and disrupt what this team has going this year. And it's exactly what the NBA and the US media would love. The fact that they wouldn't have to talk about the Raptors. That's what they really want. And also with Utah, with the trade, Danny Ainge loves draft picks. So, the Raptors, more than likely, they're not going to find themselves in the lottery this year. If you have to throw in a draft pick, more than likely it's going to be late teens, early early to mid 20s. You're not going to have to give up much. And like I said, Ochai, Grady, some draft picks, maybe a first rounder, a second rounder, and look at all those centers that Utah has and get a couple of those guys to go with the squad. And that's what you need to compete for the Raptors, plain and simple. Anyways, that's my rant. And let me know what you think. Engage with me. Talk to me on Instagram, on YouTube. It's good to be back and giving you guys a video about the Raptors. I'll be talking about some other news from my favorite teams. Those are the Jays. The Leafs have been doing a lot better. For now, I love what my Raptors are doing, and I know the rest of the fan base is really eager to see what happens the rest of the season. Anyways, from Goa, India, peace and love, and we'll talk again soon.